Welcome back to Brand Chops, the podcast that helps small businesses build strong brands and stop wasting money on marketing without a strategy. Every episode, we break down a key aspect of building your business with better branding into bite-sized, actionable takeaways you can use right away. My name is Zack Lemear.
And I'm Chris Duhaime, and today we're going to be talking about SEO and branding and how they connect and how you can better leverage them to build your personal and professional brands. Today's guest is BJ Bergey. He is a seasoned digital marketing executive with over 20 years of experience in design, multimedia, and digital strategy. He's the COO of One SEO. He plays a pivotal role in driving innovative marketing solutions that enhance online visibility, elevate search visibility, and maximize reach for clients. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Gentlemen, pleasure to be here.
So let's just jump right in. SEO and branding might seem like separate things to a lot of small business owners. How do they actually work together to strengthen a business's identity and visibility?
Yeah, it's a great question. Often people think SEO and marketing online is we're just going to do it and it's going to generate results, when actually when it comes to clients and customers and getting people to convert for you, brand is a very big piece of that journey. How memorable are you? How often do they see you? What's the authoritative nature of your brand? Do I see you out in public in my geography and also online? Those are things people are looking for, but they may not be saying it.
So they want to kind of think of SEO as a tool that helps your brand get found by the right audience.
Yep.
Starting by making sure that their business name and their tagline and their core services and everything like that are clearly represented on their website, social profiles. It's super important to be consistent with these things. We talk about that all the time in this show, as consistency is key because it builds trust and it also builds your search rankings.
Yeah, and you mentioned that consistency. Consistency is also how you display your brand's name. Your logo is one thing, but the way that you mention your name on your website, the way that you mention your name on your business profiles, the way that you mention your name in PR and other things outside your website could have the difference of, for us, for example, One SEO Digital Agency, One SEO Digital Agency LLC, Incorporated, whatever it may be. Anytime there's a disconnect, you're actually asking the search engines to work harder to better understand you, which makes it harder for them to bring you back. And then it opens up the door. It's like, well, how close is your brand to someone else's? So that's why you have to be very specific in how you present yourself brand-wise.
Yeah, one thing we've noticed is a lot of small businesses are struggling with defining their brand voice and keeping it consistent across all platforms. How can SEO help reinforce that consistent brand message?
When you're talking to your ideal customer or your ICP, your ideal customer profile, you want to talk to them in the nature that they're going to best understand your brand and what you bring to the table, but also in the terminology and level of education that would take to read that material for them to convert. So what I always recommend everybody does is when you look at your brand voice, let's say, for example, a third or fourth grade level is great for your customers. And it's not because you're contesting them. It's because you're saying, hey, listen, I need to make it so easy for you to make a decision with me. So let me go ahead and bring the understanding of my content or my messaging down. Now, some people will do that and they will copy and paste for everything that they set out to do. But the one thing I always recommend is people take a step back, look at all their services they may provide, and understand that some services might be a little bit more profound than others, and whether it be a product, a service, or an event, anything for that matter. If that's the case, you have to put yourself in your customer's shoes, right? And what that looks like is, okay, hey, we live in a world where there's so much noise. There's so much, system overload on social media. We're out in public, things are happening, and we want answers very quick and very fast. But sometimes not educating enough can be an issue, and sometimes overeducating can be an issue. So you really have to find that unique voice for the service or product or experience that you're trying to get them to have, and drill it down to the pages on your website from an SEO standpoint that makes sense. Do the same thing on social if you're talking about different things that you provide, so on and so on.
So you're saying essentially it's to simplify your tone and messaging across all the platforms so they're consistent, copy, blog posts, social media, and then align your SEO keywords with your brand message so that customers search what you offer and they get a consistent experience across all the platforms.
That is correct. Because again, you may not be in a position where somebody's going to see you or witness your brand for the first time and then convert for you. The goal is to stay concurrent in front of them and have the same level of messaging and consistency so that they understand who you are over time. Because not everybody's making an instant conversion. It may take 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11, 12 touch points in order for you to get what you're looking for. And that's, a new customer.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot, about consistency, about tone and messaging, and about, people getting to know, like, and trust you, as you've probably heard from every salesperson in every networking group you've ever been in. But it's repeated for a reason, and that they people get to know, like, and trust you when they get that consistency. We've talked about this in other episodes, where if you show up to a party with a different name tag and a different outfit, and you introduce yourself 15 different ways to 15 different people, at the end of the night, no one's going to know who Zack was. Maybe 2 people met Zack, and everyone else met the clown and the cowboy and the whoever else I showed up as, and the spaceman and whatever else I did. And it's that lack of consistency that causes confusion, and nobody gets a chance to really get to know you.
Well,
So
I'll say this: you actually bring up a really good point. So you said the word trust there. Well, apologies for a little soapbox, but in recent years, it's been an arms race with AI, right? The tools are there. Professionals look at them as power tools. How can I utilize them to make our lives easier? Other people, might be scared of them because it's moving so rapidly. But at the end of the day, what had to happen was all these search engines had to take an ethical stance on it, right? And one of the things that they push is trustworthiness of said content, meaning factual, meaning authoritative. Trust is a huge factor. So something as simple as, how well you present yourself out in public, and whether that garners reviews online or, people chit-chatting about you on message boards or Reddit, all that trustworthiness actually gets indexed by Google and Bing, and they use it to build a picture of who you are. And the more trustworthy that you are, the further your brand goes.
yeah, don't they have something called like EAT, and they added a new E to it, which is experiential, I think, which is there to combat, I think, the AI. Can you tell us a little bit more about what EAT stands for?
It's EEATT is what it is. And it's coming from Google, but ultimately it's Google's way of saying, hey, we don't want you to just churn out content and systematize this and flood the internet with a bunch of stuff, because we pretty much think that 5-10 years from now, the internet's going to be way too much information. It's not all going to be, reliable. So essentially what this looks, regardless of the acronym, what they're looking for is genuine content that shows that you have an understanding and an authoritative stance on what you provide. So what does that look like? That can be you talking about your service or product or what you bring to the table. That can also be you recognizing community and, getting reviews online and things like that. So the more human that you can present yourself, the more likely people are to buy into you on the internet. And I say this, I've said it for all the years that I've been with One SEO. I've said it, since I was growing up. People buy people, right? And you have to accomplish that digitally. You have to accomplish that in person. And those things don't change. If we go back to the pandemic, it put everybody on high alert. Everybody had to seize up operations and figure out new ways to go about things. But the ones that prevailed still found a way to give a human experience, not just hop on a Zoom meeting, not just, hide behind a chat. Give it a real human feel.
Well, that's a good point. SEO can feel intimidating for small business owners. It's a big topic. So what's one simple, high-impact step that they can take today and make their brand more visible in search results?
Yes. The one thing I tell everybody every time is, if you haven't already, claim that Google business profile, but don't stop there. Fill it out completely. They may ask you for things that you don't have. Go get them. If you check every single box, you're already better than most people out there. And the nice part is once you do all that stuff, they will send out verification, or they will send it out to get verified with you. That used to be via postcard. Now they do kind of a video walkthrough. But at the end of the day, what you're going to walk away with is a foothold in your geography, talking back to Google and talking to your ICP about who you are and what you do. So claim that, and you can claim it for where you are with a brick and mortar. You can claim it from a territory standpoint. Heck, there's people that geofence the entire United States and say, hey, this is my service area. Whatever you do, claim that GMB or Google business profile. Now they renamed it. But anyways, claim that and keep it alive and well. And what do I mean by that? 2 things will keep you moving forward. 1, there's Google posting. You can post updates on there. Talk to your audience about what you provide, because you're not just talking to them, you're talking to Google as well. And then 2, get the reviews. Statistically, people think 5 stars is the best thing ever. But after you have, 10, 20 under your belt, statistics show that people are more likely to engage with somebody if they're on a 4.8. So if you get a bad review, it's totally okay. Let it ride. But answer it, try to offline it. You're trying to show the next person who reads that you were taking care of business. But get the reviews. You got to work for it. People say, yeah, I'll leave you a review. You'll never see that review. Hey, did I deliver 5-star service today? Hey, did you enjoy your, XYZ? Ask for the review. If they're in a good spot, they'll be more than happy to do it for you.
Yeah, people are emotional buyers and they make decisions a lot of times on social proof. And that's what those reviews and ratings are about. And I think that one of the things too that they need to make sure is not just to ask for reviews, but to make sure that they're monitoring these reviews
Mhm.
and answering them. Comment on the bad ones, especially comment on the good ones. And I think people are going to understand that you don't have a 5-star review. It's almost suspicious if you're perfect.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. And, we talked about the negative ones. You're answering them for the next person. Take the high road, try to offline it. Don't turn it into mudslinging. Offline it and show that you were trying to handle it. And, that customer service speaks volumes for your brand.
So storytelling is a big part of building a brand, but SEO is usually more focused on key terms and algorithms. Can you just give us how you handle that blend between storytelling and SEO practices?
More so now than ever, the lines have gotten extremely blurred between what a keyword is, what a goal is, and what your narrative is as a brand, right? And the best way I can kind of summarize that, and I'm just going to get techie very fast, so bear with me, but it's called natural language processing. And what this is machine learning to understand why things are performing online. And a great example that I can always break down for everybody is if I lived in Orlando, right? And let's say I was a roofer in Orlando. I have nothing to do with Walt Disney World, but I might have to talk about the fact on my website that Walt Disney World exists in my neck of the woods. And that's natural language processing. It's connecting like and similar ideas that make a more geographical impact for the people you're trying to reach. Now, obviously, within reason, what you can and cannot talk about, right? But natural language processing is how you bring it together. What is the story that you're trying to portray online? Because, regardless of keyword targeting, if I want to rank for something, I got to work at it, right? Years ago, I would say, hey, does one SEO want to rank for rainbow unicorns? If I willed it enough and put enough work into it, I could make it happen. But those days are a thing in the past because now they want to see that I'm authority, that I actually exist in this area, that I have a community involvement. If I'm servicing a geography, they want to see that I participate in the world around me. And it's becoming a lot more. So that brand image and that brand narrative that you are putting out there has to be, like we said earlier, has to be on point with what you're doing in person, back to your website, and then truly do it. Low-hanging fruit that I can always recommend to somebody. Backlinks are a big piece of SEO. Go sponsor a little league team. Go sponsor, a soccer team or something, because you'd be surprised if they'll put you on the website. Next thing you know, you're getting quality backlinks. Pro tip for anyone, there are two coveted types of backlinks. One of those is .edu and the other one is .gov. Offer a scholarship. Also offer something for veterans. Both of those types of domains have websites that will list your information and send links back to you. These are super healthy, and Google loves seeing this stuff. And I do talk about Google a lot because, let's face it, they're leading the charge. But it works for Bing, it works for all these other search engines. And that's the community I'm talking about. So when you say you're going to do things in your narrative, actually do them. And that translates to online directly as well.
That's the first time I've heard of that with the .edu. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Honestly, if you dedicated one day and 8 hours to just putting it together and calling a bunch of places, you'd be surprised when people are like, hey, listen, no problem, I'll give you a link.
So I'd always thought that backlinking was good until it was bad. You want to have good, you don't want to have too many that are not very powerful, but you want to have good ones that have fewer but better impact. Is that still the case, or?
Yeah, for the most part. Again, to paint a really good picture, years ago, it was volume and velocity. How fast can we make things happen? And that's most of the world's understanding of traditional backlinks. Fast forward, what it really is now is how can I get a quality backlink that's going to stick and stay for me? Prime example is if you got featured on the news and you're on their website. That's going to stick. That's going to be locally relevant to you, and you want something like that. But also, anybody can go on the web and make a link back to you that has nothing to do with you and damage you. Google didn't like that because, technically people could go out and do, taboo things and tank other people's performance. So what they did is they started automating it to the best of their ability, but you still have the capability through Google Search Console, which is connecting to your website. So you have health and vitals to upload a disavow and get those links to not be recognized by Google. So they'll just pass over them. So it's a means to keep yourself clean. But yes, nowadays, those coveted links, because I can't go buy a .gov or a .edu. That's why, they're respected and, Google and Bing recognize as a high authority. But your other ones are going to be locally relevant ones to you. And then everything else will be citations or directories, which are going to be things like the Better Business Bureau, Yellow Pages, Yelp works as one too. So, just really putting yourselves and aligning yourself with authoritative other brands that are doing it online.
That's very interesting. It seems like as far as putting storytelling together with SEO, you've really got to think about what questions your customers are asking and start creating content that answers those questions. But in order to do that, I think people are probably like, well, how the heck do I know what everybody's asking? And if I haven't talked to everybody, well, they're going to tell you most of the time when you're talking to them. So you just got to listen deeper. But one way that you can definitely do it, just as a quick tip, Google Trends and another service called People Also Ask. And it basically just gives you a way to find out what people are searching for. And you're saying, hey, specific to SEO and branding, right? For example, or specific to plumbing in my area. Whatever you want it to be, specific to AI, specific to COVID, whatever the topic, it'll give you a tonnage of information, of content that people are demanding answers to. And now you can be a resource for that.
Absolutely. Yet one of the things I can add to that is if you just put your cursor in the search bar, not necessarily on mobile, but do it on desktop and just start typing, it'll auto-populate some of that people also asked information and just tell you how around what term you're looking for, what other people are doing. And that's the willing aspect. But you did mention a really good point that I want to share a small experience on is understanding what your customers or clients are asking for. I've been at this for a long time, and maybe 10 plus years ago, we had an experience with a drop shipper auto parts company, and they swore up and down that their demographic was Caucasian males between the ages of like 25, 35, working in auto shops, things like that. And, we did some surveying, and the piece I'm going to get to here is like, don't be too proud to say, maybe I truly don't understand my audience. And that's okay, because there's tools like Google Trends and, analytics and stuff like that, that'll give you more information of what's working for you today, but understanding the needs of the people that you're servicing. And the rest of the story goes something like this. We did some surveying to the top market area, which happened to be closer to Texas, New Mexico area, and come to find out that it's actually Hispanic females ages 25 to 35. And that's because the people that were ordering the parts for their boyfriends and husbands and things at that time were the females. So we took a very big stance on the advertising side. We got a little, creative with our keywords and stuff like that. And we spoke a new language for something that usually has a masculine feel to it, and was able to get a really big impact. So again, don't be too proud from a brand standpoint to say, is my ideal customer still the same person I think they are? And have they evolved? And am I evolving with them?
No, that makes a lot of sense. And we talk about this a lot too. And one of the things is that I say a lot is that I feel like too many businesses will start a business based on their personal skill set instead of solving a problem. Or they're solving a problem, but they haven't done the research to figure out if anybody has that problem. Right? And this is an excellent way to do that research, is to find out what are people struggling with? What are people asking about? How are people trying to solve this challenge? And now you can frame your business's unique value proposition around that solution. And instead of just saying, hey, I'm a graphic designer, I'm a plumber, I fix toilets, I do whatever it is, and then just being generic, because there's too many people out there being generic. And that's the thing. You've got to be unique, you've got to be consistent, and you really got to know what problem you solve.
Yeah. But that leads us to modern day success stories like, Airbnb, DoorDash. They don't even own these things. They're just connecting dots. And, it's amazing because sometimes the answer seems so obvious. I think DoorDash is recently or just partnered with Clara with the ability to pay over time, which is crazy to us, but they see a need there. So they're going to go try to fulfill it. But finding that unique need, and again, staying with it, because the needs change. As the world around us changes, the needs change.
That might be a sign that food prices are getting too high, where you have to finance your pizza, but that's a different episode for a different day.
I'm still paying off my eggs.
Yeah, I'm still paying off my eggs. So SEO is often talked about in terms of website traffic and clicks, but how does it actually help build brand credibility?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the review aspect. The brand credibility is kind of twofold, right? You have to be the part online in writing and in metrics. And what I mean by that is to the customer, seeing things like stars. The simple yellow or orange stars, depending on the contrast of your screen, it goes a long way. And that's a quality signal back to the consumer or the customer saying that I'm somebody you want to deal with, right? The volume of those reviews. But the brand image is also a very, very big piece of it. Some industries, like the home service industry, that's finding crazy success by disrupting the traditional ideology of what a home service looks like. And they're doing some big, bold, bright color things that you don't typically see. And that's becoming the mainstay now. It's been booming over the last 5 years. But there are some brands that are so refined that they don't need much to do phenomenal things. I always use the Paul Mitchell example. They only had enough money back in the day for their shampoo bottles to be black and white, and it just stuck. But it worked for them at that time. Whatever it is find your image, but how does it cut through the noise of everybody else? Those two things go to work hand in hand. One of the ways I like to kind of pitch the idea, if everybody talks about the marketing funnel, we're going to move people down the funnel and ultimately get them to convert. Yes, that is the goal. But from my camp, it's more of like a Plinko board, if you will. You need to have brand stake in this public environment. You need to have brand online. You need to have reputation online. You need to have marketing online, SEO. And what happens is what somebody's in your funnel or Plinko board, if you will, it'll ping pong back and forth. And that's those extra touch points we're talking about that people go, you know what? I know that brand. So whether you saw a truck on the road or a billboard or it came on a podcast or you were listening to radio, whatever it is, all those go to make up everything. So yes, am I tied to SEO in the digital marketing landscape and I love clicks and making things happen? Absolutely. But the idea is they're only going to help the horse go towards the water. The water's got to be attractive and want to be had as well.
That's a perfect segue into something I was going to say, the water thing, because there's a lot, we talk a lot about this brand called Liquid Death. And I just saw a new campaign that they made today.
Tell me it's the kegs.
What's that?
Is it the kegs?
It is the kegs. So I mean, also, so they during the Super Bowl, they had one that we didn't actually mention in our Super Bowl episode, but it was drinking on the job. And it just showed a bunch of people pounding waters like they were beers, but they were very important, like air traffic controllers, pilots, daycare center workers, like doctors, and they're just drinking on the job. And it was just hilarious. So this other one that I just saw today was kegs for pregs. And it showed a bunch of pregnant women and they were pounding down. They were in a bar. And this woman was judging her. She's like, how can you do that? You're pregnant. And they're like, oh, you need a keg. I don't know. And then they, like, at the end, she was pulled over by a police officer. And they were like, have you been drinking? He was like, actually, I have. And she pulls up this giant keg and it's kegs for pregs. Listen, anyone listening to this episode, you have to study Liquid Death. Everything about what Liquid Death does is a masterclass in standing out, in brand awareness, in brand strategy, in unique value propositions. They're selling water. It's not even special water. They're now starting to differentiate a little bit into like teas with some sort of high quality caffeine in it or something. But ultimately, they broke into a space that is super saturated, pun intended. And you can also get this for free. This started off with nobody would even buy a bottled water. That's a crazy concept. And now people buy all kinds of bottled water and there's all different kinds and all different brands. And they're like, well, how do we break into the water business? They had to be the anti-brand. Liquid Death, kegs for pregs.
I feel like I can picture a pregnant woman doing a keg stand. Is that in there? If it's not, it should be.
It should be. Oh, it did show like a sonogram of the baby drinking something too. Like, I mean, it was just between drinking on the job and kegs for pregs and the fact that they call water Liquid Death. I mean, I want to kiss this brand straight on the mouth. It is everything I want to be as a brand person.
Yes, they figured it out. And each step, it seems more heinous than the last. And it's like it gets the clout, for lack of a better word, or attention back. And, you know, I believe even the woman who led that whole campaign for them was Jason Kelsey's wife from NFL Eagles. Let me put it this way. I have an employee here, probably one of my rock star employees. His name is Alec. And that's always on his desk every single day. I'd be surprised how many people I walk through my office, whether we're looking at his prospects or giving them a tour of our space. They're like, is he drinking? And like that reaction is exactly what they want. It's phenomenal. It reminds me of going back to plus years, Grey Poupon, right? Those commercials and just taking something so I don't want to say generic, but and making it fun. And, that's the cutting through the noise we're talking about. I don't know what it is, and we'll call it the psychology around it. I've had it. I've had their Dr. Pepper flavored water and stuff from Liquid Death. It tastes better. Now, is that the brand conditioning? I don't know. That might be me. But it tastes better. But to your point, they figured it out. And that's sometimes staying the course and not being a disruptor is brand suicide. And you need to be creative. And it's like, how are we going to really cut through that noise?
Yeah, I could do 20 episodes on this topic, but let's keep moving on.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question about personal brand versus business branding. For small businesses that are working on their personal brand, how does it show up in search results? Does it help strengthen that personal brand? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So you're talking like when, let's say, a C-suite person has a stage presence and they want to build that personal brand, but it also in tandem with the company they spearhead. So great question. So here, there's two schools of thought, and I'm going to share both. If you're trying to win for the same thing in your personal brand that you're trying to win for with your actual brand, that's not the way to go about this. What you're going to do is end up shooting yourself in the foot because, technically you're making competition for yourself. Absolutely. But at the same time, when they realize the same person works in two spots, you actually get slapped on the wrist. They don't tell you they did it. You get slapped on the wrist because it looks like you're trying to game the system. This is how they stop big business from, think about like Amazon and eBay. Why don't they just make 100 million sites and just go win the internet? That's the checks and balances we talk about. So the other side of that is the right way to look at this. If you are an authority figure, if you provide information, if you have a stage presence, motivational speaker, anything, you partake in something, that brand can definitely talk about the other brand, but now it's part of that narrative piece. The narrative on your brand site for you personally should only support you and then also give signals back to your website of your actual brand of what you are like outside of the brand. And I know that seems like, well, that's the goal. You have to walk the fine line because if at any point you try to achieve the same thing, well, if you're let's say we'll go back to the roofing company example. And then over here, I am a roofing guru. Well, you're going to talk about roofing in both spots, but the second you talk about services on your personal brand, you're actually going to muddy the water, which is going to hurt yourself. So you can do damage very quickly. The one thing that Google and Bing always look at is that every URL is recognized as its own thing.
So what's a common mistake small businesses make with SEO that can actually hurt their brand?
I can say maybe the first and most obvious mistake that comes to mind is overdoing it. There's something to be said about having an actual plan and strategy to what you're doing, not just willing it. And sometimes people take the most obvious idea or goal and just run with it. So if I want to be found online for, let's say, the word plumbing, well, that can be informational, that can be commercial, that could be residential, it could be many things. And, a lot of people think that their competition that they know by name is their competition, when the fact of the matter is competition online is what's performing on the first or top spots of Google, Bing. And sometimes it's informational. So your battle might not be won just going toe to toe with your direct competitor. It might be won, and I say this loosely, taking on something like Wikipedia or FindLaw or something of that nature. And you have to show that you're the better answer. So not every keyword breaks down to an actionable that somebody's going to pick up the phone and do something. You sometimes have to do enough reconnaissance or strategy and research and then lay the foundation for what you're trying to achieve. Any reputable, marketing agency that knows what they're doing is going to walk through this with you. But if you're doing this yourself, first thing that you can do is put into Google what you want to come back for, look, see who's there, and then start studying why they're there. And, usually it's going to result in things like authority. It's going to usually result in things like they're being found locally in those map packs. Again, we talked about the Google business profile, but it's also going to result in content. So there's a lot to digest, but you need to understand how others got there first before you'll ever get there.
No, that's great. And I think that another thing too is stuffing your website with too many keywords or using clickbait headlines. You might get you short-term clicks, but again, it hurts the long-term trust. And most of the time people aren't doing the thing we just talked about, which was what is the thing that your customers are actually asking about? And what kind of authentic content can you create that's based on the solution to that question? So you want to focus on creating that content that reflects not just the brand's expertise and tone, but is tapped into the need and the problem that you solve.
Yeah. So when somebody finds you and finally gets to you looking for something online, you have very little time to convince them you're the best answer. So make it short, make it sweet, make sure it tells them exactly what they're going to get if they engage with you. And then build your credibility quickly with bullet points. That's a surefire way that if somebody lands on a page that you're trying to get them to convert on, to capture their attention very quickly.
Yeah, make your content easy to scan because people have
Yep.
very little attention span these days. They have very little attention span. Well, this has been great. And I think there's just so much that we could talk about for SEO, but I really want to thank you again, BJ, for joining us today on Brand Chops. It's the, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of. And where can people find you if they want to learn more or they want some more help with SEO?
Absolutely. If you go to oneseo.com, I have over 80 marketers here to help in any way, shape, or form. And I'd be more than happy to talk to you personally. I've been at this for a long time. And before anything analytical, I was designing user experience. So I can bridge a lot of gaps for people.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you again for joining us on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Brand Chops is brought to you by the fine people at Pivot Creative. Pivot Creative is a full-service branding and marketing agency that partners with businesses to build brands that connect so that every dollar you spend is an investment and not an expense. If you need some branding or marketing guidance, a website, a new brand, or want to learn more about one of the topics we cover on the show, please reach out to us at pivotcreative.com. If you know someone that would benefit from learning more from one of our shows, please share the episode. Visit brand-chops.com. And as always, like and subscribe if you find this content to be helpful. See you next time on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.